Number 53, and this one I call the Institute of Directors. Now, this is not on the syllabus, but I quite like it because what it does is it really shows supply side economics at its strongest. The Institute of Directors is a body made up of all the business people in the UK. The directors all meet up. They have economists who write out various policies, and then the Institute of Directors will probably vote on those policies, and they come up with an agenda, and they go out and they advise the government. So the Institute of Directors is probably going to be a little bit more to the right than to the left, right? I happen to be a little bit more to the left, but I quite like some of the ideas put forward by the Institute of Directors. And I think it's a really good idea sometimes to pick out ideas from all parties and then decide what you want to do. Okay, so I quite like it because it's quite extreme in terms of what they're saying, but maybe it provides some solutions in terms of what happens. And even though it's only the third lesson in macroeconomics, you've already learned the long angle supply curve, you've learned supply side economics, and now you're on to the Institute of Directors. Okay, so the Institute of Directors, their big policies, their big policies are, one is they want to reduce corporation tax, which is a tax on the company's profits from, currently it's right now it's 21%, and they want to reduce this to 15%. Okay, I'm going to come to that one in a second or two. The second one is they want to reduce government spending as a percentage of GDP. Because what happened is between 1997 and 2007 under Gordon Brown, the government was spending more and more money, and that was taking up a higher percentage of our GDP until eventually became about 47 or 48% of GDP at its highest. Some people even argue went over 50%. Over 50% is a definition of a socialist state. Now, obviously, if the government is spending all of that money, right, then taxes also have to be at 50%, otherwise the budget is going to get out of balance. So their big argument is that we must reduce government spending to 35% of GDP, then we can have taxation of 35% of GDP, and then we'll have lower taxes, and I'll explain why in a second or two, why they believe that this is such a good thing to have. The third one on here that they're really keen on is labour market flexibility. Labour market flexibility is making it easier for employers to employ employees. And the big controversial one at the moment is 0-hour contracts. What that means is if you want a job, you can work on a 0-hour contract, which means the firm will only employ you when they want to employ you. Now, in a way, that's really bad for the people who are looking for a job, because they never know how much work they're going to get in a week. However, it can also be good for them because it means that there are more jobs available to do. 0-hour contracts. They're also actually in favour of quantitative easing, or they were in the year 2012, which is all about printing money, but we'll leave that for another day. They're also into this very radical idea of free schools, which means that you have, the schools are free at the point of delivery for everybody, but the schools are independent and they can run in the way that they want to run. Okay, so which is a pretty radical policy, which I will talk about at another time, but not today. Really, I'm interested in these two policies here, which are pretty radical and maybe the most radical policies that they have. This is a Laffer curve, which is based on the idea of Arthur Laffer, and he said this: if you decrease taxes, that will create more enterprise within the economy, and if you create more enterprise in the economy, then that will therefore then create more wealth. Okay, so I've drawn a Laffer curve for corporation tax. Now, what's happened to corporation tax is the government has promised that they will reduce corporation tax, and it's now at 21% in the year 2014, but they've said that every single year that they're in power, they will continue to reduce it by 1%. Until I think it gets down to about 15%. I'm not sure on that. The Institute of Directors want to get corporation tax down to 15%. Now, the idea is that if you reduce corporation tax, what will happen is the government will eventually get more money back. Why is that? You reduce the taxation level. Those firms will therefore invest more money, and by investing more money, they will then employ more people. And when they employ more people, they will then pay more income tax. So eventually, by reducing this tax, you will get more money back. So therefore, everybody wins. Now, their big thing is to increase the underlying trend rate of growth. What does that mean? Going back to lesson 52 on here, when I was talking about, okay, what we want to do is we want to shift the AS curve outwards. Can you remember doing that? Okay, and we do that because the long rate of supply curve improves, there's more enterprise, more investment, more technology, all of those things, and therefore the AS curve will move out from there to there. Now, they believe that they can get the economy roughly, potentially increasing by almost 3% a year. At the moment, we think it's about 1.5%. So if the economy can grow at 3% every year, then therefore demand can increase by 3% every year. And if you compound that level of interest up, we will have a much more wealthy, dynamic economy. And in fact, what they say is by creating more of an enterprise economy, we'll get more taxation revenue back, and then eventually we'll have a bigger cake. So eventually we'll actually be spending more money on those things that we want. So it's a win-win-win situation all around. But that is a viewpoint of the Institute of Directors, and they might not be correct. Thank you. I believe that this would happen if you followed all of their policies. So what would happen is we did all of this on here. We're going to draw a massive, I know you can't really see it, but we've got the price level here, and we've got real national income along here. Okay, so what's going to happen now is we've got the AS curve moving out here. Okay, so we believe in what the Institute of Directors are going to say. Hey presto, suddenly the economy starts expanding really rapidly because of the good old Laffer curve as a drove the Laffer curve, and that means as economists we can increase AD, which is brilliant, because if we increase AD, increase AS together, we get more growth, more tax returns, therefore the government can therefore then spend more money on public services, and everything's going to be okay. That's because they believe in the Laffer curve. And to a sense, it sort of makes a good deal of sense to me. I would be in favour of decreasing corporation tax.